Thanks for returning to the privacy legislation in Canada video presentation. Our last section today is on reasons that it's important to be compliant, and then we'll be providing you with some additional resources that are available in your Moodle account and going over the exact contents of those. So as we proceeded through the various sections of PIPEDA and of CASL, we talked about some of the potential pitfalls that are there in terms of what can happen if you're not compliant with their legislation. But I wanted to start this compliance section on more of a positive note, talking about the benefits of why you should be compliant and why it should be important to you and your entire organization. If you can understand why it's important, then creating that culture of confidentiality should be a no-brainer in protecting you from violations against privacy legislation in Canada. So the first thing I want to talk about is goodwill. Goodwill and word of mouth is one of the strongest ways of building your business and building contacts in your business. When I was early on in my training for a sales job that I was previously in, one of the pieces that my instructor passed on to me is that it takes 5 times as many good words about your organization to reverse the impact of one negative experience that a person's had. And I can relate to that from my own experience. So I had student loans from when I went to university, and one of the things that happened with student loans a few years ago is an external hard drive containing the personal information of a large segment of student loan recipients was lost by an employee of the organization that manages student loans. I found this very frustrating and upsetting to myself personally because I take my privacy very seriously. So it will take a lot of attempts by the student loans group to rebuild that goodwill with me. I'd never had any other problems with them, but one single problem, even though it wasn't a minor one, has really destroyed my faith in them, and not just in terms of their privacy protection. So when you protect your clients' information and respect their privacy, your clients will come to understand that you respect them. And that helps you earn more business from them, creating that goodwill with them. In my example with Canada Student Loans, even though they hadn't done anything from their service perspective, I never look forward to dealing with them because I view them as an organization that doesn't value me as a client. So that's one simple example of why goodwill is so important. Related to goodwill, but slightly different, is your reputation as a business. So I like to view goodwill with clients as a business to client interaction, where that client's interaction with me is positive. Reputation is about how everyone out in the public views me. So when we talked about PIPEDA and how the Privacy Commissioner reports and publishes violations of PIPEDA, because anyone out there in the industry or outside of the industry can see that violation, whether they've dealt with you or not, that will impact whether they want to deal with you, and it impacts you on a very broad scale. So that strong reputation is very important. And again, it's much easier to maintain a good reputation than it ever will be to rebuild a bad reputation. So even if there's just one violation reported against you, if that happens to be the one violation that a potential client sees about you, it may mean the difference between them becoming a client of yours and not becoming a client of yours. The third broad reason to be compliant is to avoid legal action. So legal action is going to be expensive for you in terms of pursuing the court case, and could compromise, again, your reputation, but also your ability to pursue business in the industry. So many industries, including insurance, have restrictions on issuing licenses or maintaining licenses for people that have had successful legal claims filed against them. So again, we can never provide the legal advice that this would have your license removed because I'm not a lawyer here, but there is always that potential. And even if it doesn't remove your license, there's the reputational damage that comes along with that. The fourth thing that maybe the people may view as the most important reason to be compliant is the financial penalties. In reality, this is probably the simplest of the penalties to manage because as soon as you can come up with the funds to cover the fines or the financial award that's been there, that financial penalty goes away. It's not like the goodwill, reputation, and potential legal ramifications that we talked about. Not to say that the fine is a small thing either. In a business, we are always wanting to make sure we're spending our money in the best way possible. And if it's money that can easily be saved or fines that can easily be avoided by putting best practices in place, then we would definitely want to avoid having to pay those fines because as we saw when we looked at Castle, for example, those fines can be very high for a business, anywhere up to $10 million. And even for an individual, they can be up to $1 million. So to review the actual acts that are in place and to look at some of the additional resources that I've mentioned throughout these presentations, you can go back to your Moodle profile and look at the additional resources that are in place there for you to use. So we've included complete versions of the legislations described. The Privacy Act is there. The full act of PIPEDA is there, and Canada's anti-spam law is also there in full. Because of the variety of sector-specific laws, we haven't included those, but within the links, you will also find a link where you could search that legislation. It is one of the fact sheets that's up there, and that fact sheet contains a great deal of the information we've covered today, as well as further information on the topics that we've covered today. And we hope that you've learned a lot today. Best of luck. Your next steps to complete this course are to complete the quiz. Now that you've watched the final video in the series, assuming you've completed watching all of the videos for this series, you'll be able to access the quiz. And good luck in the industry and good luck with your license renewal.